Welcome to a couple of bunkies. Early this year we made a walnut jewelry trunk. Please check out the video in the upper right corner. Our Aunt Marilyn saw this video and wanted a jewelry trunk just like that for herself. She wanted this trunk to be about 16 inches long and 10 inches wide. She wanted 2 compartments that can be removed and the bottom sectioned off. She also wanted a drawing of birds engraved on the top of the box.
I start off this project by planing some boards. We're going to be using some rough cut cherry that we had gotten from Ohio. I'm planing more boards than I'm going to be using for this project. Luckily, at the beginning of the year, I had 4 commissions for similar boxes. And I'll be using these boards for those projects. Next, I gave each of the boards a straight edge with the table saw. I then organized all the boards to decide which boards needed to be glued together. My bandsaw has the ability to resaw up to 14 inches, and that makes it perfect for cutting large trunks like this. After pairing the boards by their grain, I glued and joined them together. I used a flat board and some weights in order to make sure everything was held straight. I then put the glued up board through the planer in order to remove any inconsistencies due to the glue up. After I got the boards planed, I took them to the bandsaw and started to resaw them. I should really think about adding a few more breakers for our shop. Now I again put the boards back through the planer in order to straighten and flatten the side that had just gotten resawn. It takes 7 to 8 board feet of material in order to make these jewelry trunks.
Tim squared off faces of the jewelry trunk over on the table saw using his miter gauge. Once squared up, he cut the faces to the rough width of the jewelry trunk. I like how this project is coming along so far, and I hope you like it as well. Please consider subscribing. We release a video every Thursday at 6 p.m. Please ring that bell icon so you get notified. Tim pretty much repeats the same process for the faces of the inner compartments. Now Tim set the fence of the table saw to the rough length of the jewelry trunk and cut the boards lengthwise.
I then set my table saw to 45 degrees and started cutting my miter joints. After doing a quick dry fit with the miters, I went ahead and started to cut the rabbets. When the rabbets were cut, I took some measurements and cut this trunk's top and bottom to its final size. I then did a glue up of all the parts. It's really coming together now. After the project dried overnight, I gave the entire project a thorough sanding. My biggest goal was to round over all of the edges and to reduce the gap for the rabbet. By making the top and bottom flush, it allows me to remove the lid of the box with the table saw. I end up seeing some imperfection in the joint around the bottom. I make some small adjustments in order to lessen this imperfection. I then decide to use a syringe full of epoxy in order to fill the crack so I don't have any gaps. I take some measurements off the lid in order to make the removable compartments for the inside.
Then Tim cuts all the faces of the compartments to the measured sizes. Altogether, he has to cut boards for 2 compartments or trays.
These are smaller trays, so I decided to use a combination of butt joints and CA glue in order to put these together. But looking back on this video, it looks like I was in a little bit of a hurry, and I would have rather put everything together with rabbets and miter joints. I ended up having a beautiful knot in the side of this panel, so I decided to cover it with some epoxy. Now that both the trays are cured, I square up all of the edges of the trays with the table saw. Boy, I could use a coffee right now. If you're interested in buying us a cup of coffee, please go to buymeacoffee.com and look up Bunky's Woodworking.
Tim then goes ahead and sands down both of the trays. Whenever we are sanding prior to putting a coat of stain or any varnish on a project, we start at a 80 grit sandpaper and work our way up to the 220.
This style of box I've made, I started calling the Sioux box. It does have a lot of small parts and pieces, which adds to a lot of surface area in order to sand. Right here, I'm using a Dremel in order to get in some of the nooks and crannies, and to remove some of the excess tape that I used on the epoxy hole. Now I go over the box one last time with 220 grit sandpaper. I like to have the box up to a point where it feels skin smooth. I really appreciate anybody that sticks around during the sanding process. After I get done with the sanding portion, I set the boxes aside and prepare the laser engraver to do its work.
We had done this project before our Manport laser had arrived, so we went ahead and did the engraving of the bird's design with our Artur laser engraver.
We also engraved my aunt's name and our company's logo on the bottom of this box.
After engraving, Tim put a coat of polyurethane on all the parts of his jewelry trunk, and boy, the birds look so beautiful on that top. Looking at this beautiful trunk, I wish my husband makes me one soon.
You're definitely going to get one specially made by me. It also looks like I might have forgotten to record me putting in the walnut splines on this box. My Aunt Marilyn likes to collect jewelry boxes, and she absolutely loved the jewelry box that I made for my neighbor. The one that I made for my neighbor had purple suede on the inside, so we decided to use that purple suede material in order to cover the inner lining for all of the compartments.
We have been making a lot of jewelry boxes and using fabric, or rather suede material, for lining, but we would like to try out flocking in the future.
Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe.